Welcome back again. Thanks for joining us. Today we have with us Carl, who just gave a talk at StarEast. Carl, what was the topic about? What did you speak about?
I spoke about our ability over 19 years to have successful, sustainable test automation with an open source test automation framework that SaaS provides.
Got it.
To the outside world.
Got it. Okay, 19 years, that's a long time, huh?
Yes.
You've been working for the same company for 19 years now?
Yes.
Tell me, how did the process begin? What are the different things you considered when developing that framework and making it sustainable and scalable, right?
Well, the most important thing was that the test automation framework had to be able to persist over years and accept the changing tools and technologies that came over time.
Okay, you spoke about changing technologies. What were the technologies which came over time over these 19 years? Let's take a trip back in the memory lane.
Well, we were testing VB6 apps and native Windows apps. Then we were moving on to web apps and Java apps, and then .NET and Flex, and it keeps changing over time to different kinds of apps.
How did you structure the test automation framework in order to keep up with these technologies?
By separating out the test designs, your test scripts if you want to call them that, from the test execution tools that will run them. By separating those out, you can keep the same type of testing strategy and design over time while you're changing in and out, changing technologies and tools over all the years.
So can you take a step back and can you give me a real world example of how this would work? Let's assume I'm testing a web application which I have in front of me, smartbear.com. Okay, how would you separate out those two layers and how would that process work if I'm testing this kind of an application here?
Well, the first thing we do is decide when a new technology to be tested comes, like HTML5,
JavaScript, Angular
we decide
JS.
what type of testing tool might be the best tool to test that.
Got it, okay.
And that might be evaluated.
Right.
And then we take that tool that we chose to use for that technology and build an engine, encapsulate an engine that knows how to interpret our tests. We make it interpret our tests so that it can be plugged into the framework as one of many different tools that are available.
Got it. Okay, let's take an example of JavaScript itself or HTML5, right? How would that process look like? How would you go about that process, setting that up?
Well, in this particular case, the SaaS, as the primary user of the framework that we've developed, wanted to use, the core testers wanted to use Selenium as the testing tool.
Got it,
for
okay.
that. So we just created the interpreter that would allow a Selenium WebDriver enabled framework to interpret our tests and plugged it in. So alongside SmartBear's Test Complete or other tools, they could choose to use Selenium for that part of the test when they wanted to.
So how do you go about the other thing? What are the other things? One of the things which comes to my mind when you use Selenium is stability, making those tests stable. What things you did in order to ensure that tests were stable and robust at the end of the day?
Well, that's one of the beauties of our type of testing framework is that the users aren't coding their tests in Selenium.
Got it.
They don't code their tests in Test Complete. We define actions that are available and we implement those actions in the underlying testing tool engines.
Got it.
And whenever we find problems, we go in and fix that code, make it the most robust so that that fix now works for everybody that's testing any application using that engine. And as we find issues, problems, Selenium says it clicked something and it didn't click it, we go in and try to identify the issues, solve it, so that those future clicks all work.
The other thing which I wanted to ask you about is how do you get an insight into the reporting aspect of Selenium? What do you use for the reporting aspect of Selenium?
Well, in our testing framework, we have our own logging of pass and fail because for one thing, a single test is not necessarily only using Selenium. It may be using Test Complete and Selenium or AutoIt and Selenium. So we have a single test log that we write to that can be an XML format that can then be translated into whatever reporting mechanism you want to use.
The other question which I wanted to ask you is, many people might have found the description what you gave about your talk really interesting. If they want to know more about what you spoke, where can they get the more information on the talk from? What's your Twitter handle?
The GitHub. Well, I don't use Twitter.
You don't use
I don't
Twitter?
use Facebook.
Okay.
We
So
are
where
at
can- where can-
SafStev on GitHub. Right now, the open source project is github.com, and we are SafStev.
How do you spell it?
SafSdev.
Okay, so and where can they find the materials which you presented as well for the
Well,
presentation?
it should be online in the PDFs for the whole conference,
Well,
and at carl.nagle@sas.com. If they write me, I can make sure they get a copy of the PDF along with the notes of what I said during my presentation.
definitely, that would be a good way. And can you repeat your email address once again for the people?
carl.nagle@sas.com.
So that's the way to go about it. Reach out to Carl if you need more information about the test automation framework he built, and definitely an interesting concept. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.